Today, we dive into a case that is as tragic as it is haunting. The sudden disappearance of 22-year-old Mercedes Vega in Arizona. In April 2023, she was last seen leaving her apartment in Tempe. Just hours later, her car was found abandoned. And what investigators uncovered would shock an entire community. Mercedes's story is a chilling reminder of how quickly a normal evening can turn into a nightmare, how safety can be shattered in an instant, and how one young woman's dreams and future were stolen in a way that still demands justice. But the question remains, who was behind this? Was it a random act of violence, or something far more calculated, designed to silence her forever? Watch this video until the end. As we explore Mercedes' final moments together, we'll uncover disturbing evidence and surprising twists that reveal a crime that's darker and more intentional than you could ever imagine. Mercedes Vega was born on March 10, 2001, in Anchorage, Alaska. She loved horses and had a special affection for babies. Finding joy in the simple pleasures of life, in 2007, when she was 6, her mother, Erica, began dating Tom Pillsbury. Over time, she and Tom formed a close bond. Just before Erica and Tom's wedding in 2010, Mercedes gave him a Father's Day card that he still remembers fondly, which said that she loved that he was marrying her mom. This gesture highlighted their strong connection. As she grew up, Mercedes pursued her interests with passion. She played the violin, sang beautifully, and even performed the national anthem at various events. Academically, she excelled, earning straight A's throughout her early school years. Swimming was another of her talents. She felt a strong connection to the ocean, once expressing that her soul belonged in Hawaii. This love for the sea mirrored her free-spirited nature, always seeking places where she felt at peace. Mercedes's family was central to her life. Her parents, Erica and Tom, raised her in a supportive environment, eventually settling in Santan Valley, Arizona. By her early 22nd, Mercedes had moved to Tempe and was living independently in the Aubrey apartments. She worked as an exotic dancer in Phoenix a few nights each week to support herself while pursuing her larger dreams of opening her own gym and becoming a personal trainer. About 3 years before her disappearance, she encountered a traumatic experience. In October 2020, she was the victim of an armed robbery outside her apartment in Phoenix, which led her to relocate to Tempe for a fresh start. She cooperated fully with the police, identified the suspect, and provided an impact statement. This incident showcased her resilience, as she used the experience to strengthen her focus on her independence and ambitions. However, on that ordinary Sunday in April 2023, her life took a tragic turn. On the 16th of April, she had planned to have dinner with friends, a routine social outing amidst her work obligations. However, as the day went on, she informed her friends that she would need to go to the club instead, where she performed a few nights each week. This change in plans became significant, as it marked Mercedes' last known communication. Initially, it seemed like a simple adjustment, but it would later serve as an important detail in the events that unfolded. Surveillance cameras at her apartment complex, the Aubrey, captured footage that helped piece together the end of her evening. Investigators noted that a white 2018 Chevrolet Malibu with a salvage title, a car not belonging to her, was spotted in the parking garage around 8:45 p.m., lingering in the area. Then, at about 9:15 p.m., Mercedes was seen on surveillance video, walking confidently towards her own vehicle in her assigned parking spot. This would become the last recorded image of her in that familiar place. Later evidence from the scene showed signs of a struggle. Blood was found in the parking lot and on the front passenger seat of the car, suggesting that she had been attacked. As time passed, around 9:25 p.m., cameras in the area captured her car pulling into a nearby lot next to a restaurant called Culinary Dropout. Just a short drive from her apartment, the car was parked improperly, with the keys still inside, suggesting it may have been abandoned in a hurry. As the clock struck midnight on the 17th of April, An alarming situation unfolded far from Tempe. In a remote area of desert along Interstate 10 near Tanipa, about 60 miles west, where traffic becomes sparse and the landscape stretches wide, a passing driver noticed something unusual off the freeway. A vehicle had gone off the road and was in a ditch, with flames flickering inside. Concerned, the driver stopped and called 911 to report what he had seen, providing crucial information for the investigation. During the call, he informed the dispatcher that he wanted to report a car on fire that was off the side of the northbound lanes on Iminus 10 around the 85 mile marker. He stated that it was down in the bushes but that he saw flames inside the vehicle. He also mentioned that there might be people outside the vehicle and that he believed he saw at least one person. This detail suggested some activity around the car just before or during the fire, adding complexity to the investigation. The dispatchers recorded the report and quickly sent emergency crews to the scene, where firefighters worked to extinguish the flames engulfing the Chevrolet Malibu, which had been in Mercedes's garage just hours earlier. After the fire was controlled, responders looked inside the burned car and made a grim discovery: a body in the back seat, severely affected by the heat and smoke. Further examination of the vehicle revealed 2 bottles of bleach in the front seat, lighter fluid, and latex gloves, which indicated possible foul play rather than an accident. The car was not reported stolen, and its salvage status complicated efforts to uncover its history. Authorities secured the area, blocking off the ditch and roadside to collect any evidence the fire hadn't destroyed. Later that same day, they confirmed the victim's identity through fingerprints, linking the case back to Tempe. The victim was identified as Mercedes Vega, who was far from home under mysterious circumstances. Detectives from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office took over the investigation, analyzing the 911 call for any auditory clues and interviewing the caller for more details about his view of the scene. They carefully mapped out the timeline, starting from garage footage, showing 2 cars leaving together, to the abandoned vehicle near a restaurant where the keys were still inside, and finally to the burning car in the desert. Each aspect raised new questions about how Mercedes had ended up there and what had occurred during those hours. The site itself painted a grim picture. The Chevrolet Malibu was awkwardly positioned in the ditch, with its interior burned and the backseat area showing significant damage. Responders noted the position of the body, observing that it appeared to have been placed there rather than being the result of a crash. The bleach bottles, one of which was partially used, were found in the front area, alongside a container of lighter fluid, suggesting a possible attempt to speed up a fire. Besides the individual who called 911, no other witnesses reported seeing the car on the road, but traffic cameras along Interstate 10 were reviewed for any evidence of its westward journey. Forensic teams examined the Chevrolet Malibu, which was stored in a secure lot, in hopes of collecting DNA and fingerprint evidence from the ashes. The caller mentioned seeing someone outside, prompting searches in the surrounding brush for footprints or discarded items. Though the dry terrain made it difficult to find clear tracks, Mercedes's phone records were subpoenaed to trace her last communications, and investigators inspected her car's interior for clues beyond the bloodstains. That evening, around 7:00 p.m., Mercedes's parents, Erica and Tom, returned home from a vacation in the Caribbean to find police at their door. They asked whether Mercedes lived with them, and after Erica repeatedly questioned if she was okay, they delivered the devastating news of her death. Caught completely off guard, especially after their last phone conversation during their trip, they experienced profound heartbreak, with Erica describing it as feeling like her soul was being ripped out. In their grief, the family shared details about Mercedes's habits to assist investigators in understanding what might have led her into danger that night. With a timeline established for the tragic evening, detectives from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office faced the challenging task of piecing together how a young woman could disappear from her secure apartment garage and be found in a burned-out car approximately 60 miles away. The investigation continued for months, then years. With many challenges testing their patience and resources, forensic teams meticulously sifted through the ash of the charred Malibu for DNA, fingerprints, and any overlooked items. It was a slow process. The autopsy report from the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office was not released until October 2023, 6 months after the body was discovered. It revealed that Mercedes had suffered a gunshot wound to her arm, multiple blows to her head, causing blunt force trauma, and chemical burns from bleach poured on her face and throat. Tragically, she was still alive when the fire started, with the official cause of death listed as smoke inhalation and thermal injuries, classified as a homicide. This delay in the findings added to the frustration, compounded by the slow progress of the case, which saw few public updates for over a year. Investigators interviewed those close to Mercedes. Focusing on her routines and relationships, her parents emphasized her independence and reported no known conflicts in her life. Although they couldn't ignore the lasting impact of a prior armed robbery in Phoenix, they felt that the investigation lagged, partly due to biases. Tom expressed in interviews that her part-time job as a dancer at a club seemed to diminish her importance in the eyes of the police. Sergeant Joaquin Enriquez countered that all cases are treated fairly, regardless of profession. Friends and colleagues from the club spoke highly of her reliability, confirming her last-minute shift plan and noting she had no visible enemies there. They mentioned that she had been cautious after previous incidents, but there were no recent warnings of danger. The investigation turned its focus to Mercedes's past, particularly an armed robbery on October 12, 2020, which had left her so shaken that she moved to Tempe. Early that morning, a man confronted her at gunpoint outside her apartment in Phoenix, demanding her belongings. He got away with cash and personal items. Phoenix police conducted an investigation, and Mercedes fully cooperated, identifying Cujo Young as the robber in a lineup and providing a statement that detailed her trauma. Cujo Young, who faces armed robbery charges, has faced numerous delays in the case, largely due to changing attorneys and negotiating plea deals. He fluctuated between rejecting and accepting plea deals. Mercedes was prepared to testify against him, with a trial date set for mid-April 2023. Court records indicate she was scheduled to testify on April 17, the day her body was discovered, although some reports suggest this was the day before she went missing. The timing of these events raised questions about whether the upcoming testimony influenced the situation. During the crucial hours in April 2023, when Mercedes was kidnapped and murdered, Cujo was not at either location. As records indicate, he was not in custody. Due to delays in a robbery case, he had no confirmed presence in Tempe, where Mercedes was taken, or in Tonopah, where her body was found. Theories of random crime diminished while the idea of a planned attack gained traction. Family and friends emphasized Mercedes's increased caution since 2020, highlighting the importance of her connections. Erica expressed her frustration in the media, suggesting the motive was to prevent testimony. As the investigation progressed, uncovering digital evidence and forensic links, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office eventually made arrests, revealing long-awaited names. The first significant breakthrough occurred on November 11, 2024, when Sincere Hayes was arrested in Hamilton County, Tennessee. At that time, Sincere, a 22-year-old resident of Chattanooga, was already in custody for unrelated charges. Maricopa County Sheriff's Office detectives connected him to the case through a fingerprint that matched one found on a bloody plastic grocery bag in Mercedes's abandoned car, a match that had remained unresolved until his arrest in May 2024 added his prints to the database. After being extradited to Arizona later that month, Sincere had his first court appearance where he pleaded not guilty. The judge set a cash bond of $2 million. During questioning, he admitted to knowing Cujo Young from their hometown of Chattanooga and verified that he had traveled to Arizona for business, though he refused to disclose details about it. Sincere had a history of legal issues that began at age 18, with his adult record starting in May 2021 in DeKalb County, Alabama, for possessing a stolen firearm and a banned substance, which led to an indictment in February 2022. This case was dismissed on April 10, 2023, just days before Mercedes's death, after he failed to attend his arraignment Although the warrant was later lifted, in May 2024, Chattanooga police arrested Sincera again following a report of shots fired, discovering he had several weapons, one of which was stolen. After being released on a $5,000 bond, he was arrested weeks later by Hamilton County Sheriff's Office for DUI, speeding, and illegal possession of a firearm. The investigation expanded further in June 2025 when Jared DeMarcus Gray, a 25-year-old from Tennessee, was arrested in Catoosa County, Georgia. Jared's fingerprint was found on a plastic cup inside the burned Malibu, where Mercedes' body was located. He awaited extradition to Arizona while being held on unrelated charges, with prosecutors seeking a $2 million cash-only bond. In interviews, Jared claimed he was in Arizona for business, but denied knowing Sincera or Cudjoe, despite travel records showing he and Sincera flew together from Tennessee to Phoenix on March 3, 2023, and took a Greyhound bus back on April 18, the day after the fire. Although Jared's criminal history was less extensive than Sincera's, he was tied to the crime scene through DNA and cell phone data that matched Tonopah's route. On July 24, 2025, a grand jury in Maricopa County indicted Cudjoe Young, 29, who was already in custody on an unrelated warrant. Cudjoe appeared in court shortly after, stating he would represent himself and acknowledging the judge's warning about being held to the same standards as a lawyer. He pleaded not guilty, with the judge setting his bond at $2 million cash only. Cudjoe's history was significant. He was identified by Mercedes in a 2020 armed robbery where she had picked him from a lineup after being held at gunpoint outside her Phoenix apartment. This case faced numerous delays, often due to Cudjoe changing attorneys, causing frustration for her family. Additionally, Cudjoe was facing 10 counts in a separate investigation into banned substance trafficking, accused of running a nationwide operation involving illegal banned substances, money laundering, and conspiracy. All three men faced serious charges. Sincera was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, theft of a vehicle, arson, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and hindering prosecution. Prosecutors sought the death penalty for him, citing the brutality and depraved motive of the crime. Jared was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, and vehicle theft. Cudjoe faced charges for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, first-degree murder, armed robbery, arson, and theft of transportation. The main motive in this case was to silence a witness. Investigators believe that Cudjoe planned this scheme to stop Mercedes from testifying against him in the 2020 robbery trial. Records indicate he paid for the flights of Sincera and Jared using a credit card, hired accomplices to retrieve the Malibu car under a false name, and contacted someone to collect a package near the site of a fire that night. This deliberate effort to eliminate her as a threat connected the three individuals, turning a past crime into a serious conspiracy. Sincera was the first to be arrested, and his case progressed steadily, although slowly. After being extradited and entering a not guilty plea in late 2024, prosecutors announced in May 2025 their intention to seek the death penalty if convicted. They cited the brutality of the crime and its goal of obstructing justice by silencing a witness. Sincera's lawyers pushed back during court meetings, arguing against the death penalty and questioning the strength of the forensic evidence, such as the fingerprint found on a grocery bag. They emphasized his youth and lack of prior violent offenses, portraying his involvement as minor rather than significant. A tentative trial date for Sincera was initially set for July 31, 2025, but court documents revealed it had been postponed due to ongoing evidence, review, and motions. With the next status hearing planned for later that year, Jared's case was delayed as he awaited extradition from Georgia after his arrest in June 2025, where he was held on a $2 million bond. His case revolves around fingerprints found on a plastic cup in the Malibu and matching DNA evidence. His defense indicated plans to challenge the integrity of the evidence, claiming possible contamination or errors in identification, and pointed out his limited criminal history as reason to doubt his leading role. The state requested fast extradition, arguing that the interconnected nature of the cases required them to proceed together in Maricopa County. Cujo's involvement complicated matters further because of his connection to the earlier robbery. He was indicted on July 24, 2025, facing the same main charges, with prosecutors claiming he was the mastermind behind the plot. He also used a credit card to book flights and directed others to obtain the Malibu under a fake name. Cujo pleaded not guilty during his murder arraignment on the 1st of August, alongside Sinceri, and maintained his innocence while questioning the conspiracy claims in brief statements. For the Mercedes family, including Eric's and Tom Pillsbury, these developments elicited mixed feelings amid their deep sorrow. They regularly attended court hearings and voiced their frustrations about the system's failures to protect Mercedes like their daughter, who had moved after the robbery only to face further dangers. Erica described the waiting as torturous, stating in interviews that the family felt anxious while waiting for justice. The announcement of the death penalty brought them some relief, with Tom noting it lightened their burden and confirmed they weren't alone in their fight. However, the pain of their loss continued. They scattered Mercedes's ashes in Hawaii, her favorite place, and Alaska, honoring the locations that held significance for her. In the months that followed, the family dedicated their efforts to advocacy, determined to keep her memory alive. They collaborated with Silent Witness and engaged with the media to seek answers and justice. A GoFundMe page remains active to help cover their expenses and support their efforts. They welcome any contributions from those who wish to assist. Currently, all three defendants, Cujo Young, Sincere Hayes, and Jared Gray, are entangled in the court system, having been indicted and pleaded not guilty. Their cases are still actively under judicial review, and the legal process continues. For everyone following this story, it is not over yet. The pursuit of justice is still in progress, and the final outcome has yet to be determined.